What is up, everybody? It's your boy DFS Jimmy coming to you post Masters 2019, bringing you the early week course preview video from our friends over at Fanshare Sports. If you haven't already, make sure you get over to fansharesports.com. Check out what they have going on. Their ownership and sentiment rankings came in very big for the Masters last week, as they tend to. Tiger Woods having one of the most polarizing sentiments in the industry, yet being one of the highest tagged golfers, led to some valuable information for DFS players. So make sure you get over to fansharesports.com. Check those guys out. Today we are, besides throwing and being just it's Sunday. It's right after the Masters, so I'm fired up. I'm fired up to see Tiger back in the winner's circle at a major, notching number 15's fifth green jacket. Incredible stuff. I had a blast watching the Masters this morning. Hope you did too. Now, let's get into and get you guys prepped for next week. It is the RBC Heritage. It is Harbour Town Golf Links. A lot of course history at this event. Going to start out with like we normally do. We got our card. We got some course history to look at. Golfers that have played well here over the years. What we think has led to their success year in and year out, and things to look for as we pick our players for this week. So, without any further ado, this is Harbour Town. Actually, let me get... This is Harbour Town. This is the most iconic image people think of Harbour Town. The Calabogue Sound there on the left, and the red and white lighthouse that everyone associates with this tournament. Pretty cool kickoff to the tournament. They do a cannon that blasts off out in the Calabogue. But this is a very different golf course than what we see at the Masters every year. It is the type of course that you don't need length, you need precision. It is a die designed with Nicklaus. Par 71, just over 7,000 yards, pretty tight. Set out on the coast, as you see, a lot of dense trees, a lot of marshland, a lot of water in play, very technical, trees encroaching upon the fairways throughout. We'll take a look at a couple of holes. This is the second most famous hole at Harbour Town. It is par 3, very difficult, most difficult hole on the course. We'll see it on the scorecard here in a second, but really gives you a good idea of the type of golf course that players are going to be up against this week. Set in the marshlands, like I said, but big mature trees all throughout the golf course. Spanish moss, abound, and this really protects the golfers from the coastal winds that they experience here at this track. So you'll see golfers either try to play the low ball and keep shots below the tree line so they're not as affected by the wind, or just simply golfers that they're gonna have to factor in the wind above the tree line, how it's going to affect their ball when it's in flight. So definitely a different type of golf course. As you see, the trees are really tight. This is a par 3, but this is how all the holes are. Actually, I do have another hole that to show you guys. In this one, it's a little tough to see behind me, but really weird, little weird green shape, very tight target line. Not a lot of rough surrounding some of the runoffs and whatnot, but very difficult targets on the greens. You see, there's only a few spots for pin placements here. Bunker guarding everything in the front, and this tree limb behind me. If you're on the wrong side of the fairway, you almost can't hit this green. It's very simple. And that's how they are throughout this entire course. You really have to be on the proper side of the fairway to even have access to that day's pin location. So it really is a test of target, tactics, strategic type of golf. A lot of irons off tees. You're not going to see a lot of drivers around here. A lot of conservative play, players that are good wedge players, good mid-iron players, and don't necessarily thrive on length tend to excel here. We will see a list of golfers that have played well here over the years, and try to draw a few traits out from that. But suffice to say that distance is not required at this course. While there are a couple of long holes, for the most part, it is a mid-iron golf course. You need to place your tee ball on the proper side of the fairway so that you have access to the pin, and try and make a good wedge or iron shot from there. That is sort of the recipe for success here. Being a good sand player never hurt. As you see, there's quite a bit of sand here, a lot of protection, a lot of water around here as well, but you will see some pretty spectacular sand shots. One of the guys that has some of the best course history at this track. is maybe the best sand player in all of golf, and has been for the last decade or so, 2 decades. So being a good sand player, being a good scrambler here at this track never hurt either. So let's get into the scorecard though, and we'll take a look at the course itself. Like I said, just over 7,000 yards, par 71, plays just under a half stroke over par on average. Lot of dynamic hole ranges here. You've got 3, mid-iron par fours, one that gets to 200 yards, but really nothing too crazy in terms of length on par threes. Par fives, they're reachable. 2 of them are. One of them not so much. Most of the people in the field can reach 2. The other one really, no one's really trying to reach it in 2 here. And then the meat of the golf course is in the 400 to 450 yard par fours. You see down here. They account for basically 30% of all the DraftKings points that are scored, and it is very much target golf. You need to be able to just place a tee ball out there with a hybrid, long iron, whatever the case is, 3 wood, 5 wood, and then just get yourself a good number into the green from the correct side of the fairway. That is the name of the game, and repeat as often as required. So it's very much target golf. So be looking for strategic golfers. Be looking for golfers that play well at coastal tracks. Be looking for golfers that play well in the wind. The wind does tend to affect play here almost annually. It's a coastal course. We are not going to see like you might have calm days, but we're probably going to get a windy day or 2 in there that's going to really affect golfers this week. As you track down the scorecard here, a couple of par fives. Pretty easy. This is a golf course where you have one really difficult hole. That's that par 3 I showed you earlier. Averages a 0.3 of a stroke over par. Number 1 difficult hole on the course. Plays the most difficult every single year. Will nip 20% of the field for a bogey here, and almost 10% of the field for a double. So definitely a carnage hole, and definitely a hole that on Sundays helps shape the way this golf tournament plays out, as it is a down the stretch type of hole. There's just not a lot of bailout room. There's no room left. Right is wet, diagonally situated, shallow green, tough target. And then the wind comes into play as well. So number 14 is definitely the hole to watch for. You need a well struck iron shot, but really it's about pin seeking here. It's about finding yourself with a good number into the green with a short iron, and throw darts and see if you can repeat that process as many times as possible over 4 days. It's because again, this is a type of track where all golfers on tour can compete. Because length is not an issue, you don't have to be a Dustin Johnson or a Bubba Watson or things like this to be able to put the ball down there far enough to be able to compete like at the Masters or some of these other tournaments. Everybody can play here, so it's very much a game of target golf, playing smart, playing strategically, and seeing if you can get a few putts to drop, and get a few good shots out of the sand throughout the week. So. Really, as far as the course goes, it is very much like any other die course. It is set up to kind of play with your head a little bit, or just make you uncomfortable in the sight lines off of the tee, uncomfortable in some of the things that you have to kind of set up towards in order to work the ball around, as well as the trees that encroach. Lots of trees encroaching onto the fairways, into the sight lines. You'll see a lot of guys having to play for and around those obstacles this week. Let's get into some of the golfers that have played well here in the past, and actually, before we do that, take a quick look at the backside of FanShare. I have sorted this for the last 5 years here at Harbour Town Golf Links, and I've sorted this and scrolled down just a little bit to kind of get rid of some of the guys that have only played here once or twice, but this is the meat of the type of golfers that have scored the most birdies on average per tournament at this track. And we get into the guys that played 2, 3, and 4 times here. You're looking at people like Cantlay, Cam Smith, Brandon Grace, Kevin Strom, and Ian Poulter. None of these guys are big hitters. Cantlay certainly isn't too shabby off the tee, but definitely he is a long iron ball striker. Puts things tight into pins, and that's where he makes his money in his game. Cam Smith, another one of those guys that plays well in the wind, plays well at coastal tracks. Good ball striker. struggles off the tee with distance, but this is a perfect track for him to compete. 3 of 3 cuts made, averaging 17 birdies per tournament each time around. Brendan Grace, another guy, plays well coastal tracks, plays well in the wind, doesn't need to worry about length, precision off of the tee, precision into the green. 3 for 3 cuts made here, averaging 17 birdies a tournament. Kevin Streelman, Ian Poulter, same thing, guys. You don't need to be a bomber to get around here. You need to be the type of golfer that that can place their irons where they need to, hit some good shots and pins, get a few putts to drop. Being a good wind player never hurt anybody here at Harbour Town. So let's get into the last thing to look at is the course history average, last 5 years of finishing position, all rolled up into a course history average. And then I have an early week model that I built. Don't know how much it'll change. I'll probably massage it a little bit between now and Wednesday. But the early week model definitely highlights some golfers that set up well based on hole length and based on hole length at comparable courses. To start out, let's just take a look at the average. Best average finishing position, top 5 guys: Matt Kuchar, Russell Knox, Luke Donald, Kevin Kisner, Brendan Grace. We'll throw Poulter in there too. They all have a very similar type of game, right? Good ball strikers with their irons. None of these guys are ever going to win long drive contests. They all are pretty good scramblers, have good all-around games, and all these guys tend to play pretty well in the wind and at coastal courses. Recipe for success here this week. Again, it's not a course that, as we scroll down, you'll see some golfers that, had really struggled. For example, Wee Kim hadn't played a whole lot here, had a 6th, then a miscut, then a 50th. Guys that, Billy Horschel had ranked number 1 in the model this week, for whatever that's worth so far, but, struggled 68th, 51st, 54th, miscut, and then a 5th. Scott Piercy, that type of game, 16th last year. But guys, Matthew Fitzpatrick really likes this event, missed the cut a couple of years in a row. But a couple of bookend decent finishes. So this is the type of course that guys don't have to have a ton of great course history to show up and put up a top 10 or a top 15, because it is very much a course that anybody on tour can compete on. A whole bunch of newbies, first-timers here. Look at guys that just annually don't play well here or just have not been able to get it going here. No big names, no big surprises, so no one to really work through. Rafa Cabrera-Bello miscut in his only attempt. Harold Varner, some of these guys, they're only one-time attempts. The rest of the folks here, there are a few guys that have just had real bad times, but for the most part, it's the type of course, if you're on your game and you show up to play, you can put together 4 good days and find yourself in contention at this golf tournament. You look at folks like Chesson Hadley, decent first time out 5 years ago, a couple of miscuts, didn't play, and then, his game was really on last year, and he put together a 7th. So, I think there's a lot of opportunity to find some quote-unquote sleepers this week. A lot of opportunity to find some guys that nobody is on that are having some good ball striking starts to the season. That they could really shine at a course like this. You look for people that have played well early in the season. CIMB Classic, Mayakoba, places like that. Even Tournament of Champions that maybe form kind of fell off a little bit. This is a type of track where they can get back on their game, especially if their irons have been good. Maybe the rest of their game has struggled a little bit. So, but you look at these top 5 guys, and really you just keep scroll down. The top 12, top 10 guys kind of says it all about this track in terms of their course history and average finishing position. You just don't need to be a long hitter. You need to have a solid course management. Good in the wind, good on coastal tracks, and good with your mid irons. And then really, it's anybody's game. If you show up and play smart golf at this track, you can score and you can manage your way around for a nice finish on Sunday. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, your boy DFS Jimmy signing off for you once again, and for Fanshare Sports. Make sure you give me a follow on Twitter. Make sure you check out fansharesports.com. Best of luck this week. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of their restful Masters Sunday, and we'll see you guys next week.